Hello, into week 3. So here's where you're at. I'm hoping what you're starting to see, or what I'm seeing certainly in the discussions, is the different ways of, as you look at methods, you look at material. So hypothesis testing, the one. Lots of thinking, but it's only a couple of minutes to write it, but a lot of thought goes into it, and the exploring of variables is quite difficult. That's the hard part with working with hypothesis. What's going to be the right process to test this belief, thought, theory? What's interesting with that is Aristotle used it as the proof of an unmoved mover, was the terminology he used, which later became by the church proof of the existence of God. The same Aristotle's argument was used by the Catholic Church. Still exists. So that notion of causality, that this is caused by this, and in that string somewhere there's a beginning. What's essentially the independent variable, that thing that exists and causes further actions. So it's an interesting place. The other that if I get you to look at it, is I suggested Kim's Convenience. That's just to lighten it up a bit. Have a little giggle, watch a show. It's a cute little show, but it's something to talk about other than just the academic reading. See now that as you've moved into Archival, that Archival is a lot of tedious work. It can be very time consuming, interesting, time consuming, going back and dragging out that original information. So think about that as you're going. So now as you're in your little groups, I'm hoping what you'll talk about this week is, would you use archival research? Depending on your topic, is there something already exists to go get? Or would you don't need it. It wouldn't apply. We're going to do new research. We're going to look at actually testing an idea. Maybe neither of those might work. You might still yet be into grounded theory. And if you look at my first slides, the intro slides for the course, and the week 1 slides, you start to look at, there's 3 theories there that are key to thinking about research. There's grounded theory, there's phenomenology, and then later we'll hear about symbolic interactionism. But certainly those 3 become key. Is it a grounded approach? So the 3 on the first slides are grounded approach, ethnography, and then with it. So phenomenology is, you'd be looking to say, what's that overarching belief or thought that makes sense of all this? It'll come up later in the course towards the end, but for now, just get a little scope of those. Looking at archives, there's a couple here. If you look at the slides on Archival, week 3 on my the PowerPoints on the front page, you see a list of different things that count as archival research. Might be worth going through and discussing those. What do you consider? How might that work? Textbooks we rely on. Textbooks tend to give us findings, not the original data. Archives is to go into the original data. What you did with the government website, you looked at the original data. Difficult. But as you start to look at other things that might count as archives, what's a song? What's in a song? Beatles songs, love songs, why do they work? Why did that work socially? So we'll come back to it. I'll come back later in the week with another one to consider that history of songs. Well, you might be able to dissect that a little bit. So verbal histories, what counts? Indigenous communities, they don't have written word. What might count as that? Graffiti, would it be an archive? And it is, actually, it might well. It gives us a sense of transition, social change, and therein provides an archive to us. So it's other than what we expect of us in the written word. Clothing. Look at that, have a look at that site, see what you consider. Consider the South Africa conflict around apartheid and Nelson Mandela. Consider Winnie Mandela. Consider, when you think about the archives, Martin Luther King Jr. And then I want you to go and look, if you have time, go look at Paul Robeson. And look at the material on Paul Robeson that existed before Martin Luther King Jr. What's our line of thought? Where do the arguments come from? What's the move? So it's not necessarily now causality may not come into the archive, but it gives us some insight. So hopefully that helps. Keep going. There are lots of little it seems difficult, this course. I don't want it to be a difficult course. There's lots of work, yes. But it's about being able to apply it and having the little chats around, I like this, not just I like this, why do you like it? What's the value of it as a way of getting insight into a particular topic of interest? That's what this course is about. By the time you're done, you will have tapped into each little type of research and you will know which ones you like and don't. So don't get overwhelmed with what this is going to turn into in a group project. In another 2 weeks, we're going to see that group project come up, the first one where you actually think through putting through a little bit of a draft. There's no grade on it. It's just to get you to actually sit down and try and accumulate it a bit. By then you will have done sampling. And sampling gets you looking at, oh, well, how would we do this? And then we'll just keep going. So please don't get overwhelmed. But I get the work, the time involved, but the thoughts or how well you're doing the course, don't be overwhelmed by it. The course is actually designed with lots of hard steps. But the reality is it's about an application of those, and it will you'll see it reflected at the end that what I expect in that group paper is not overwhelming at all. It is the cumulated report on what we as a group have come up with as valuable process. I will see you again. I'll pop back in. I'll maybe come back in and give you some thoughts on music if you like. We could do a Zoom lecture. I'm going to throw that up. We might be able to do a link on Zoom if that would be helpful. Bye for now. I hope it's helping.